Revenue extra day. Appreciate everyone coming in early, especially my wonderful committee. Few holes in the lineup up here. We are, there's some sickness going through the house, as we've all heard, and a couple of our colleagues are home getting better. So with that, we'll call the roll.
Representative Campbell.
Here.
Representative Connolly.
And some of us are here.
Excused.
Representative Harshman.
Here.
Representative Jarvis.
Here.
Representative Provenza.
Here.
Representative Storer. Representative Thayer.
Excused.
Representative Wharf.
Here.
Chairman Byron.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Quick decorum. Be nice or leave, be kind, be civil. Please work through the chair. Remember to do that. I know we have a fair amount that want to talk on these bills. Silence your phones. If you have to take a call, run out into the hallway. For my committee, silence your phones. We're gonna get right to it. We have a lot of work to do. This is an extra meeting for the House Revenue, so we ended, or we continued Thursday. TRW. Revenue was last year with Vice Chair Harshman. TRW. Glad I'm not on that anymore. TRW, House TRW. So we are on 85, and we have currently continued it from Thursday. And due to what I expect much of our weekends were like for folks calling us and chatting with us about the history of this bill and this concept, and the amount of time the committee spent with different folks talking this weekend, I do want to open it up to those that are here in favor of House Bill 85 first. I'm going to keep some folks, we heard a lot on Thursday about it, but I'm going to try to keep it to a bit of a tighter timeline. And then if you're here to speak in favor of House Bill 85, come on, fill up these seats. We have no one online right now, so we'll go ahead and start with those in favor, and then we will go to those opposed, and then we'll go to the committee. So as you come up, please introduce yourself, tell us who you are representing, and we'll get started.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Committee. Gunnar Malm, Laramie County Commissioner and Treasurer of the Wyoming County Commissioners Association. I'm coming today to talk to you in support of this bill, but I wanted to specifically mention the 100-mile rule because I think there's a lot of kind of confusion around it. I will concede that the intention behind the rule is certainly noble and good, but good intentions don't necessarily make good policy. And I think we've seen that with this rule and how it's played out. So as it stands, the 100-mile rule would allow me, a Laramie County Commissioner, only elected by Laramie County residents, to impact the lives of residents in Representative Provenza's district, residents in Platte County and Goshen County. So before we kind of move on from that and think about shrinking that zone, even in Laramie County, the 100-mile rule allows the government to interfere with the ability for citizens to make a living. These residents that work at competing facilities will be forced to take 16 days off currently, but the potential is that they would take a lot more off. I believe that cowboy racing will be successful. I'm excited about it. I voted for all the gaming facilities in Laramie County and specifically was excited about us getting our own horse track. I think that's a really great thing for our community, but I believe that they will expand. And as they expand, more and more time will be needed to shut down other operators within our community. And those people that work at those facilities will go without jobs and go without revenue to pay their bills during those times. There's also the expansion of parimutuel wagering that might occur with other facilities like rodeo events. And so that would also impact cowboy racing's ability to operate during those 16 days. I would tell you as a commissioner that we have been approached by not less than 2 vendors or operators who have looked to open tracks on county property. So if one of those was to come into the marketplace, it would also affect the ability for these other operators and cowboy racing to raise these revenues and have to shut down during those days. So I think that that is not only unfair, but I don't think that it's really the intent of the Wyoming legislature to impact the ability of citizens to make a living. And that's where I struggle with the 100-mile rule. I believe the free market should dictate those kinds of things and not the government. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Malm. Any questions from the committee? Representative Storer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Malm, thank you for being here. I am just curious how you think about why the horse racing industry is interested in being in Wyoming. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, through you, Representative Storr, I think that we offer a multitude of things. I think we have, I've heard, I'm not a horse guy, but I'd love to own a horse, that the high altitude training is a potential expansion for our industry and why it could do more here. Obviously, the revenue piece. I mean, let's not be blind to the fact that the horse racing allows you to have HHR, which allows you to make really good revenue. I mean, I think that we would be lying to ourselves if we said that wasn't a large portion of the equation for all operators. And so I think that is why we've seen an influx. That's why we've seen and been contacted by national racing organizations or entities at the commission about a potential facility. There's obviously revenue to be gained.
Representative Worf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess a question, and you might not be the appropriate one, but I'd like to hear your views. Does removing the 100-mile rule, does that encourage more or less of these other gaming devices as opposed to the live track racing?
Mr. Chairman, through you, Representative Worf, I don't know that it encourages others because you still have to have an operated track in the state of Wyoming. So I think that it will potentially add facilities, but that's the other great thing about this bill is it finally allows local government to make that determination of what is the threshold for your community. Because as of now, I know there was discussion about it would allow arbitrary and capricious decisions. I would tell you right now, as a commissioner, I feel that if I deny one of these without the guidance with the current guidance that's in place, I would be making an arbitrary and capricious decision. So we have gone the length of, if you come to us and you meet the rules, we leave it up to the Gaming Commission to make that determination. And unfortunately, that puts us in a bad place with our constituents because we say, hey, we don't want to be sued. It's the Gaming Commission's decision. And I'm sure you're all aware, constituents never like to be told it's not my fault and I can't do anything about it.
Thank you, Mr. Mom. Great question. Committee, any other questions? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Go
Chairman.
ahead and introduce yourself.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is Kyle Ridgway. I drove down from Casper this morning. I'm the president of 307 Horse Racing. Two points that I kind of want to talk about, and then I'm happy to answer specific questions about the industry. We've been involved in it for the better part of 5 years at this point. I guess the first point I want to make is that this bill really is about what Commissioner Malm described, which is local control. As somebody who has personally, not through lawyers, but personally gone to 15, 16 different counties in this state trying to permit these, I currently have 14 locations permitted. Every single one of them had a different process. Every single one of them, I have a different agreement. In some counties wanted a minimum tax revenue guarantee. Some counties wanted a 3-year renewal. Some counties wanted a 5-year renewal. Currently, there are other operators who've been in the industry longer than us that have blanket approvals. For example, in Natrona County, Wyoming Downs has a blanket approval that says you are blessed to operate in this county. That's it. No restrictions. So the point of this bill and the reason that we worked on this with the Wyoming County Commissioners Association for 2 years was to try to get everybody that was in the industry on even playing field. And this does the same thing for the new folks that are coming into the market as well. It defines everybody's rights and responsibilities around permitting. It provides clarity to local governmental entities about what they can and cannot do and what their rights are and what their rights are not, which resolves litigation. That's the point of good policy. That's the point of a good bill. Why the legislature needs to step in, because there's too much ambiguity in how this process is supposed to work. There are communities that want these, like I think Teton County, who told us no, and Park County, who told us no. And the reasons they told us no was because they weren't sure they could put time limits on us, or they could review us, or they could revoke us. The whole point of the litigation that happened in Campbell County was the court literally said, depending on what you put in your resolution, you don't have rights to go back and revisit these permits. So this structure is to try to make these work like liquor licenses and give everybody a level playing field on how permits are supposed to work, how they're supposed to be reviewed. With regard to the 100-mile rule, I think everybody's making a bigger deal out of that, frankly, than it really is. We were involved in the 100-mile rule in Gillette. It did not benefit our business. It harmed our business to use that rule. The fact is that the rule predates HHR, as Executive Director Lair Mandy described. And the way that works successfully in other states, like Kentucky, is you have a track, and then you have your location at the track, and those tracks are typically on the border. So for example, Kentucky Downs is a 15-minute drive from Nashville, where gambling's illegal in Tennessee. And that's where it is. And those tracks all existed, all these regulations, and so you're protecting your track. What's happened in Wyoming is, one, this industry organically developed to have a critical mass for a customer base, which doesn't exist in a town like Douglas or even a place like Cheyenne necessarily. And so the industry developed where people were permitted to go to these locations without having a racetrack in those locations. So for example, our permit for our Derby Club here in Cheyenne, where we spent $20 million to build a family entertainment center, says we're allowed to be open 365 days a year, and we've had that permit for 3 years. What the 100-mile rule would do in this circumstance is allow somebody to come in after we've been permitted and approved, and then close our business for some period of time, 16 days, however many days you want to run our races. There's already been litigation twice about what counties can or cannot do. Sweetwater County was told by a district court they could not prefer one OTB vendor over another. Campbell County was told they could not close people and enforce the 100-mile rule themselves. So the fact is, even if that does happen, you're gonna end up with litigation over whether it's even constitutional to shut somebody down after they've been granted a permit, and use this as a sword as opposed to a shield to protect somebody that's there first. Like if somebody was already in Evanston with a track and you tell everyone no one can come there because the track's there, that's one thing. To tell everybody you can be there without racing, and then after the fact close people, is a different matter with regard to due process and with regard to what the Wyoming and the United States Constitution says. So, and you can put those issues aside because courts can resolve that later, but the fact is, this 100-mile rule and the way it's worked in Wyoming, the industry has developed well beyond the way the rule was supposed to work, given how it was permitted by localities, given that there were localities like Laramie County that wanted the tax revenue without the racing to allow people to come and make investments. So I think those two facts are important. One, this bill cleans up and creates a level playing field for everybody with the localities, creates due process and makes this clear how this is supposed to work. And then number two, the legislature in removing the 100-mile rule provides clarity and avoids litigation and a mess that every locality has dealt with every time it's tried to come up, because it wasn't designed to be used for this. It was designed to be used for simulcasting. It existed well before HHR. And even the lived experience of people who've used the 100-mile rule like myself, all it did was create chaos, litigation, losses of tax revenue, and did not benefit our business or our purses. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ridgway. Committee, any questions? Seeing, yep, go ahead,
Just
Mr.
a
Vice Chair.
little more on the Gillette, you know, we've all read about it and heard about it. Can you just kind of describe how that all kind of went down a little bit?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, through you, Representative Harshman. So in Gillette, what happened was Campbell County wanted to ensure that it could have live horse racing. And so what it did is it had already permitted 2 of the existing operators to have OTBs in their jurisdiction. Then the county decided it was going to pass a resolution that said whoever has live horse racing, that's the only company that can have off-track betting. And so what happened was those locations in Campbell County had to close based on the county's resolution. And there was litigation as a result of that, and a court ultimately said the county did not have authority to do that. They did not have authority to do that because they had granted them blanket resolutions that said, you're allowed to be in our county, and that's all we've said. So after that case, counties started negotiating with us, reserving restrictions, hoping that contractually they could create some rights to revisit these. But then you have an uneven playing field because you have one operator with a 3-year renewal and another operator that doesn't have that at all. I'm required to provide annual reports in half my counties. Some of the other operators aren't required to do that. One of my counties required a minimum tax revenue guarantee. And so that case basically saying counties don't have authority is kind of what led to this bill, to provide clarity around what the localities can and can't do. And part of the reason you saw the expansion that you had the last few years is because a lot of the localities felt like, well, we have 2 court cases now that say we can't do anything about this. So we just don't want to get sued. We're just going to have to give everybody a ticket. And then that's all shifted to the Gaming Commission to do this saturation analysis, and you have nobody to local level having say. That's why we've ended up with this bill, because the operators understand that it's a bad environment for the localities and it's a bad environment for us.
Thank you, Mr. Ridgway. Committee, any further questions? Seeing none, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Representative Davis.
Mr. Chairman, I bring you a different perspective on this. You know, before my life as a legislator, I was on the Gaming Commission. And this 100-mile rule has been talked about for many years there. I served on that commission for 5 years. You know, it was originally intended to mimic what was occurring on the East Coast when the state of Wyoming was in the infant. You know, it's a beginning on this adventure with horse racing. And so it really does not apply in Wyoming because, as the previous speaker said, it was designated because a track had the facility at the track and was to protect that. But where we don't really have that in our tracks, it really is an antiquated rule. So I'm in favor of this bill because it does clear up a lot of things that have been brought before the commission for many years. And this finally has a bill that will give us a little clarity and assure what's going on out there with not only the counties, but the municipalities. So I'm in favor of this bill and would stand for any questions.
Thank you, Representative Davis. Questions, Representative Worf?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I don't want to assume anything, so I'm going to ask. We were handed proposed draft amendments from the County Commission Association and WHAM. I'm assuming, are you saying you support House Bill 85 with or without that amendment?
Mr.
Representative Davis.
Chairman, Representative Worf, I would support it with the amendment.
Thank you, Representative Worf. Thank you, Representative Davis. Committee, any other questions? Seeing none, appreciate that. 819, anyone else to speak in favor of House Bill 85? Not seeing any. Let's go ahead and flip over to those that are opposed to House Bill 85. Please come up, fill the chairs. If there's an empty chair and you plan to speak, come fill that empty chair. We have 2 more meetings and these House bills have to be out of House TRWs. So let's keep that in mind. Really appreciate our conversations this weekend, and committee did talk, and happy to see all of you again. Please introduce yourselves and go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Affie Ellis, representing Cowboy Racing. I wanted to just keep this brief. I know you've already heard our arguments, and I sent you a very extensive email over the weekend, but I just want you to think through this 100-mile rule conversation. So right now, as it works, the operators all have mutual waiver agreements. If you want to play in my sandbox, instead of giving me a little bit money to maintain my sandbox, how about we just waive it? Then I can go play in yours. So if that's the status quo right now. Right now, Cowboy Racing has a racetrack has built a racetrack in Laramie County and has 3 applications to have gaming facilities in Laramie County and Cheyenne. The only way that a reciprocal waiver would benefit us would be to say, okay, well, if we're going to get any value out of that, we better go open in Rock Springs, we better go open in Evanston, and we better go open in Gillette. Without the 100-mile rule and how these reciprocal waivers work, it actually incentivizes us to go realize the value and go open more gaming facilities, which I think is the opposite of what the legislature intended when it first authorized HHR machines to come into the state. We do disagree that it's protectionism. We provided some testimony to you. It is financially unbeneficial for us, for any of these facilities to close on race days. The way the 100-mile rule is supposed to work is it's supposed to force operators to come together to agree on how much money is exchanged to support the purse, which if you read the gaming study, that's the whole key of supporting growth in live horse racing. The problem isn't the rule. The problem is we have these reciprocal waivers. And in our view, that's actually encouraged the wrong kind of behavior. So we've asked, to reinsert the 100-mile rule. Over the weekend, you saw where some people said, this is not that big of a deal. Now you hear it's a big deal. It's mixed, right? And it's very critical for us. And I can tell you that Cowboy Racing based a large part of its business decision on the existence of that rule and how it works in other states. So we'd ask you to reinsert the rule, and then also really, if you decide to work this bill, please just change it to a clean effective date, effective July 1st, 2025. That treats all operators fairly. I think the amendment that's proposed by the county commissioners and the Wyoming Association of Municipalities and the others has this very complicated effective date that really we feel pulls the rug out from under us. So with that, I thank you for the additional opportunity to provide some more testimony.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis.
Good morning, Mr. Commissioner
Hold on
Ryan Clement.
just a second. Let me see if we have any questions of Ms. Ellis from the committee. Seeing none, Mr. Clement, continue.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Ryan Clement with Cowboy Racing Thunder Plains. I'm a principal owner of both companies. I wanted to try to answer your question that you asked Commissioner Malm, if I may, Mr. Chairman. The 100-mile rule, we relied upon to come in and spend the millions of dollars that we have up to date on this track. If you get rid of that rule, you will continue to encourage the behavior of going to lease fair tracks and create gambling empires. The rule stays in, and this bill fails, you're encouraging the behavior that we did, which is millions of dollars in private investment in capital infrastructure in jobs. Commissioner Malm mentioned big track operators in the United States coming into Wyoming. There's plenty of space in Sheridan to build a mile-long track. We would love for that to happen, for somebody to come in and spend $20 million on a track. That's the behavior you want to encourage, not leasing fair tracks and building gambling empires. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clement. Committee, any questions? Seeing none, Mr. Schultz.
Mr. Chairman, Shane Schultz on behalf of Cowboy Racing. I'm just here to answer questions with my colleagues if there are any.
Appreciate that, Mr. Schultz. Committee, any questions of these folks? Some notes being written down. Seeing none, appreciate that. Thank you for being here this morning. Anyone else? We've had some people wander in late. Anyone else to speak on House Bill 85? For or against? We have nobody online. Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. Hand it back to my committee. Committee, what is your pleasure? Moved by Representative Provenza, seconded by Representative Campbell. All right, committee, we have some work to do. House Bill 85, we're going to work the bill. We have been provided a fair amount of amendments from some different folks. Let's start on page 1. Now we can do it a couple ways. Obviously, there's a large amendment what was proposed, and we can, and LSO has that in front of them. We've all had an opportunity to review that. We might want to make some tweaks to that, but certainly can take that as a whole, or we can work the bill and then bring it in. Any preference there? Representative Worf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move the amendment that we were given by the association and the WAM. I was just trying to decide how to say it, but the one that highlights, there's 8 amendments listed individually, but I would just move all of them at one time, Mr. Chairman.
Second, that's been moved by Representative Worf, seconded by Representative Provenza. All right, committee, we did talk about this last week, and there are 8 different amendments within the amendment, a lot of cleanup language. I think we go through page by page, and if you do specifically have a change or something you want to discuss, let's use page number and line number, starting on page 1. Anything? Page 2. Amendment begins on page 3 Line 4, Representative Campbell.
Have a bit of a brain lag. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't know if on page 1, line 3, if we also wanted to adjust that consent to say review and objection, just so it matches. Yeah. So it would read requiring approval and review and objection by a city. Just so we are consistent throughout the bill.
Committee, do we find that to be friendly? Just keeping some language in line, Representative Worf? Okay. LSO, well, that's on page 1, line 3, deleting consent and adding review and objection. Carrying on, we're on page 3 now. Line 4. 16, anything else on page 3? And we can come back to page 4. Similar language. Page 5, anything? Committee, anything on page 5? Page 6. Did have a request here on page 6, line 7. That was discussed in testimony. Deleting the but not limited to, we can potentially take that up in a second amendment. Page 7. Page 8. Kind of get to the meat and potatoes here. Page 9, and a little bit more language, and then page 9, line 8. Anything? Page 10. Representative Worf.
Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to keep up and remember all the notes that I made, but I was trying to remember, and hopefully you guys can help me remember. I know on page 5, I put in brackets on section F, line 1 through 6, new language requires publication. And I don't remember that conversation, but I don't see on page 5 where that was an issue that was identified. Does anybody remember what was said about that section?
Committee, page 5, line.
Page 5, 1 through 6.
1 through 6. Certainly, you know, as we are going through this, Representative Worf, I'm happy to come back to that. We're gonna
Yeah, I'm just
work the bill.
trying to remember.
Yeah, so far we've really
I
just,
flagged it as new
Okay.
language.
so far we've really been through, you know, delete consent and insert review and objection. So I think that, and I
Okay.
will bring that amendment on page 6 that we discussed at a later
Okay.
time, but yeah, thank you for that. And if others have that flag, let's go ahead and discuss that. We are gonna continue on to page, we've left it on, there are no changes, pages 4 through, well, no current changes, pages 4 through 9. 9 is, has some significant changes on page 9, line 8. Page 9, lines 9 through 11. Line 16, 11. No discussion on that. Gets us through Amendment 1. Let's hop to Amendment 2, back to page 5, line 13. And I'm happy to slow down, but we have had 4 days to go through this. Do have a little note here, Co-Chairman Harshman, on page 6 in your writing, and 7. Oh yeah, we have that one coming. I will deal with that one. Okay, committee amendment number 3 proposed as part of this larger amendment, page 7, line 20. deletes that are not cured and insert for which reasonable steps to cure the issue are not initiated. Page 4, going to amendment number 4 proposed, page 8, line 6. Page 8, lines 11 through 13, delete entirely. We did have some discussion about that, Representative Campbell, but I think you were it's handled in a different part of the bill. Page 10, going on to amendment number 6, page 10, line 5. Everyone keeping up? Flipping the amendment on or going to the second page of the amendment. Page 10, line 22. Reinstates that stricken language. Page 11, lines 1 through 7, continuation. Page 11, lines 15 through 21. Some renumbering. Continuation of that reinstatement of the stricken language. The last part of this, the last two parts, page 15, lines 21 and 22. Big insert here. Any questions, committee, on page amendment, the 8th section of that proposed language change amendment, page 15, lines 21 through 22? I know I recognize I've been going fast, so I want to give people some time to catch up here. Page 16, lines 1 through 18. Delete entirely. That's that new language that we inserted right before that. Committee, that is a very large amendment to this bill. You know, there was certainly talk of a different bill, but I think that the amount of work that has gone into this bill historically and also the amount of time we have all spent on it, I am comfortable with that. We have obviously just worked that amendment. There's more to come. Any questions, committee, on all of that we just went through?
Mr.
Chair
Chairman,
Horstman.
just two questions. First is on, back on page 8, lines 11 through 13. Why that's deleted, and then the effective date on page 16. So page 8, 11 through 13, and then page 16, the effective date.
Thank you, Co-Chair Harshman. Page 8, lines 11 through 13, it was, and Representative Campbell could chime in here, there was testimony that there was another location that is covered. Yeah, I know. But I did feel comfortable in my notes here on that one, and then your effective date question, if you want to repeat that.
Yeah, it gets deleted.
And then if you look at right above Amendment 8, there's a new effective date. Yep, section 5, right, third paragraph down. Representative Worf?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just to keep things clean, I'm gonna finish this one. I am gonna offer another amendment to reinstate the effective date back to July 1st, 2025, but I don't know if it's better to do that now. To me, it seems cleaner to adopt this amendment first,
I would concur.
and then we can revisit that.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Committee, any more questions on that amendment, that large amendment? I would entertain a call for the question. Question being called. All those in favor of that proposed amendment we just went through, LSO has a copy of it, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. That amendment has been adopted. Okay, we are back on the bill. Representative Worf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to move an amendment that we strike on Amendment 8 that we just passed, Section 5, that made that effective immediately, and change that back to effective July 1st, 2025.
You've heard the motion for the amendment. Do I have a second? We got a second from Representative Harshman. Oh, sorry, we got a second from Representative Connolly. So folks, that is gonna be what we just amended. Section 5 reverts back to this act is effective July 1st, 2025. As opposed to this act is effective immediately upon completion of all acts necessary for a bill to become law as provided in Article 4, Section 8 of the Wyoming Constitution. Any discussion on that amendment? Sensing your urge to vote, all those in favor of that amendment, aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
No.
That motion carries. You're back on the bill. I have an amendment, page 6, line 7. Are we, Tanner, give me a thumbs up if we're still keeping up with this. Okay. Page 6, line 7, after including, delete but not limited to the following. Some cleanup language that was proposed. Seconded by Representative Worf. Strike it, yeah. Any questions on that language? Representative Provenza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to maybe walk us through what your intent here is. Are you trying to tighten up what the counties and cities can do? Yeah, just walk me through what you're thinking.
Thank you, Representative Provenza. I think that what we're trying to do in this is that there are other local control things that are currently happening, so we don't want it to limit to this. I think that it was proposed as a cleanup of the amendment we just, 2 ago we adopted. So that was my intent of that, noted on from our long discussion on Thursday. Question being called. All those in favor of that amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. That amendment has been adopted. We are back on the bill. All right, committee, we did have some other amendments. At this time, it's 8:40. We've been doing some good work. I want to give this House Bill 85, it's time to shine. So if we want to discuss anything else on that bill, any questions, clarifiers? We've just done a lot. It's a big amendment to this bill that is already an in-depth bill. So any other questions from my committee on House Bill 85? Representative Worf.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I guess I just want to say one thing, and I mean, I really, I'm concerned about expansion of the gaming machines. And I really want to send a message loud and clear that I support the racetracks. I mean, that's really my only interest. I believe the live racing is something that fits within our culture. It's something I'm proud to support. And I'm not a gambler, but I do believe that the live horse racing to me is a lot more palatable. I know I've had a lot of concerns expressed to me about the expansion of these gaming machines. And I do believe that putting this back where the county commission, and other players in the city, local government have more say what's going on in their communities. I think it's important to reinstate that. I think that may have been something that's been lost over time. So that's really why I'm supporting this. I want to encourage the track, so I hope they don't see this as a poke in their eye. I feel like we've been handed a tough decision, but I do want to send that message loud and clear that I do support the track racing and want them to succeed, and applaud their efforts of coming in and trying to get something going here in Laramie County.
Appreciate that comment, Representative Worf, and I will echo it. I think that as someone that drove by many of these tracks, many a winter with them being closed down, it's great to see that in the summer they are vibrant and happening, and I really do appreciate the investment that's made here in this community. I think it's a really great, it will become a very good asset to this community, and certainly support that live horse racing. So committee, any further comments on House Bill 85? Hearing none, Representative Provenza is called for the question. This will be a roll call vote.
Mr. Chairman, this is a roll call vote for House Bill 85. Representative Campbell.
Aye.
Representative Connolly.
Aye.
Representative Harshman.
Aye.
Representative Jarvis.
Aye.
Representative Provenza.
Aye.
Representative Storer.
Aye.
Representative Thayer.
Excused.
Representative Worf.
Aye.
Chairman Byron.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, there are 8 aye, 1 excused.
Thank you. We will discuss some floor managers for that bill after we are out of this meeting when we head upstairs. Thank you for your work on that. We are going to now go on to House Bill 162 and invite the sponsor of House Bill 162 up. House Bill 162, interactive gaming. Welcome back, Representative Davis. Thank you for your patience Thursday through the weekend and this morning. Great to see you again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. I would like to give you a little background here on House Bill 162. I served on the Gaming Commission for 5 years, and we often dealt with a lot of different issues there, sports wagering and how to legalize it and stuff like that. This was brought to the Gaming Commission's attention probably 7 years ago, that this industry is operating in the state of Wyoming. So this bill considers the legalization of iGaming and how to regulate it and how to protect the public. Nationally, iGaming is estimated to run $338 billion. Here in Wyoming, it's estimated to be an industry of 590 million. And with or without this legislation, I want to, you guys to consider, it's gonna operate in Wyoming, with or without this. JAC sponsored a study in 2024 to look at all the gaming in the state of Wyoming to see how we rank out, okay? I'm proud to say that the state is in very good shape. There were some areas of attention that needed to be handled, and I think there's legislation this year that is addressing some of those areas. The Spectrum report can be viewed, that came out of that, on the Gaming Commission webpage, or it was there at one time. If not, I'm sure you can get it from the Gaming Commission, which outlines the gaming situation in the state of Wyoming. And it identified iGaming as an area of need, interest. We needed to address what was going on with it. So the legalization of iGaming would give protection for the people who choose this as a form of entertainment. Not everybody chooses this. It protects our underage youth from engaging in this activity. Through the regulation process, the state would be able to protect against fraud and theft and be able to assist those with issues in gaming. By coming onto a platform, you have provisions in there that protect the wagerer, know the age of the wagerer, similar to the same principles that we used in iGaming or in sports wagering. So, I think there's a lot to be gained, not only for the voters of Wyoming, but the state of Wyoming, to regulate this unregulated industry that is currently occurring. And for you, I have offered up 2 amendments that were brought forth. The first amendment was brought forth by the Gaming Commission, and there was on page 13, to better identify, oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It starts on page 12 and ends on page 13, line 8. It just deletes that whole paragraph and reinserts the paragraph from the amendment, which would then identify iGaming to be in a specific account for better clarity and everything for the commission and everything like that. So I strongly recommend that you adopt that amendment. And then also there's a second amendment. I hope you have it. It's on page 20, line 6. Well, let's see, page 20, line 14. Delete 40 and insert 45. Also on page 20, line 17 and 18, delete entirely and insert 45 there also.
For the committee, that amendment is behind the bill in your packet.
And with that, I would entertain any questions, and I'd like to bring up the industry to answer any specific questions for you.
We will ask them up in just a second, Representative Davis. Certainly Representative Campbell, ask a question on the amendment proposed by our commission.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with your proposed amendment creating a standalone interactive gaming account and transitioning that away from the commission gaming account, you could just talk me through the reason behind that and why that might be necessary.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Campbell, you know, the commission has different accounts. We have iGaming would be one account. We have sports wagering, we have games of skills, we have the OTBs. So by each one of them having their own account creates more clarity of the funds coming in and going out of that account. It just simplifies their bookkeeping.
Thank you for that clarity, Representative Davis. Representative Campbell, is that clear it up, committee? Representative Connolly, welcome.
My apologies for being late.
No apology needed.
The bug.
The bug is out, we know.
The 500,000, where did you come up with that? Is that pretty standard? On a quarterly basis, the commission shall transfer amounts within the account in excess of $500,000 to the state treasurer for credit to the general fund. Is there a magic number there, or?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Conley, that's basically in statute that the commission can only hold so many dollars in reserve, and anything above that on a quarterly basis, I believe, tips out into the general fund. It's just a transfer of those unused revenues.
Thank you, Representative Davis. Any other questions, committee, before we ask for testimony of the bringer of the bill? Seeing no other questions. Oh, Representative Campbell.
Sorry. A little slow on the, so you mentioned, and I will admit, I mean, Yeah, I haven't read through this as thoroughly as I should. Mentioned protecting those minors, and the under 18, and I'm not finding that in the bill. Is there a provision somewhere? I think it might be on 21. I mean, is that, page 21, referencing 924-204, under the age of 21.
Mr. Chairman,
Representative Davis.
Representative Campbell, in order to enter into iGaming, the active age to play this is 21, is outlined in this bill. But when you are signing up on a platform, which this is a little more technical and we may have to have the people behind us address that. It's know your wagerer, because you as a wagerer have to set up an account on that platform. And that's where they determine your age. You have to prove it and everything like that. It'll allow you to set the amount of time you wish to game, the amount of dollars you wish to use in your portfolio. So there's a lot of things in there that they can adjust for you to make it as user-friendly to you specifically. It's not a one-size-fits-all. I hope that answers that. Okay.
Thank you, Representative Davis. Representative Worf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Davis. With the amendment that you're proposing, it changes, it strikes on page 20, line 17 and 18. And so the way I'm reading the bill, I can only see where 55% is accounted for. Is the rest of it going into, is that what this second amendment that creates the new commission, is that where the other 45%'s going? Because you got 45% on line 14, 15, it's going to the counties. And then on line 20, it says 10% goes to the commission gaming account. Do we need to make any other changes? Because that only accounts for 55% of the money.
Representative Davis.
Mr. Chairman, Representative, the intent of the amendment, and I believe it is to give 45% to the counties, 45% to the municipalities, and then 10% would remain with the agency to regulate this. So that would be 100% then. And I believe that's how the amendment was meant. Now, if it's not clear, then I would have to get back with LSO, but that was the intent of the amendment.
Mr. Chairman.
Follow-up.
Mr. Chairman, yeah,
Representative Worf.
I would encourage you to do that. And I apologize, Representative Davis, it may be captured somewhere else, but I'm not seeing that. And I would encourage you to talk to LSO and see if your amendment, if it's couched somewhere else. But I'm not seeing where it goes to the cities.
Thank you, Representative Worf. Representative Connolly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what happens here is the school foundation program account gets taken out, correct?
Representative Davis.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Conley, it's kind of deja vu to take gaming dollars to educate our students with. It's something that I did not think through originally, but in all of our other bills, that doesn't occur. So it just did not seem to pass the litmus test there.
Mr. Chairman.
Worf.
If I may, the good Representative Campbell came and showed me that is in there. So Representative Davis, it is there. I didn't read far enough down on your second proposed, or the first proposed amendment. Line 6 and 7 replaces line 17 and 18 that we're deleting. And that is where the 45% goes cities and towns. So it is in there. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Representative Worf. Thank you for the help, Representative Campbell. These are two very large bills with large potential effects on our state. So I appreciate everyone working together on this, and thank you for that clarity, and thank you, Representative Ward, for catching that and keeping up with it. Committee, any other questions of the good Representative Davis? Don't go far. Representative Davis.
Mr. Chairman, one last thought on that. You know, we're talking about the, how Wyoming looks with gaming. You know, this does not change the face of Wyoming, this particular bill, because it is currently occurring right beneath our nose. And it, by legalizing it, does not change what we see in Wyoming. It just brings it in, regulates and protects our wagering public.
Thank you, Representative Davis.
Thank you.
Don't go far. We are gonna start with those that are here to speak in favor of House Bill 162. If you're sitting back, please come back, come up, fill up the black chairs. Pardon me? Go ahead and fill up the brown chairs behind the black chairs. Oh. Yeah, I should have gone to other electeds or the commission, but I think we're good. Yep, commission's good. Thank you. Go ahead, please introduce yourselves.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Dave Pickard. I represent the Sports Betting Alliance. Mr. Chairman, with your indulgence, Representative Davis, I appreciate him bringing the bill. He did ask me to walk through the bill. If you would like me to walk through it quickly, it would more than likely answer a lot of questions that the committee has already asked, and some have been answered, but I think it would benefit the committee greatly to walk through it and understand.
Thank you for offering, Mr. Pickard. It is 8:58. I think that would be appropriate at this time, emphasizing the word quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will do my best. Mr. Chairman, again, Dave Pickard, in support of the bill. We have worked this bill over the last two interims leading up to the budget session where it was defeated on introduction due to the 2/3 majority vote. We did take this to the Management Council. They issued a request to the Joint Appropriations Committee to look at internet or interactive gaming over the interim. One of the reasons that you don't see a bill that came out of the Joint Committee is they were awaiting the Spectrum Gaming report that has been referenced here this morning and will be continuously referenced most likely in other folks' testimony. So with that, we still brought the bill and we'd ask for your favorable consideration. Mr. Chairman, I won't go through the preamble. Article 2 goes into the definitions. It defines who a commission is, what interactive gaming means, and then goes into, on page 3, again, interactive gaming, what the activities are. And then you'll notice that on page 3, line 17, it identifies some activities that are outside of the authorized or the existing law, and that's the lotteries and fantasy sport contests. And it goes in to define further the interactive gaming. Page 4, line 13, interactive gaming operator. It has the definition and then the gaming revenue. I'd like to point out before we get to interactive gaming vendor that just for clarification, the operator is the large brand name that you see in online sports wagering and other type of activities. The vendors are the companies that provide the ancillary services to those operators, and I'll get to that in just a minute. On page 5, we go into what an interactive gaming vendor is. I think this might answer some of the questions that were presented earlier. It's a very significant component of the legislation. You have the operator. They are that brand name that you see out there. They contract with vendors to provide a lot of the regulatory requirements to be licensed in the state. They include geolocation services, which make sure that the operations are only being conducted on those grounds within the state of Wyoming that are authorized. And we'll get into that in a minute when we exclude through geofencing the Wind River Indian Reservation. The next component is know your customer. This is when Representative Davis was speaking about the age verification, and honestly, we've all gone through that on online platforms. Two-factor authentication. This is where if you're unable to identify through your social security number, your date of birth, your place of residence, et cetera, in verifying your age and your identity, it will go to a, kick out, go into the customer service of that operator, and they will conduct additional identification requests to make sure that you are who you are and that you're of legal age to enter into this activity. Continuing on, the rest of page 5 has live game simulcast, live game interactive studio definitions. It defines who the patron is. Going to page 6, you have qualified gaming entity and the definition that exists there. Basically, if you do not identify in statute what a qualified gaming entity is, you could open it up to the entire world. We are putting restrictions in there so that they are bona fide operators in other jurisdictions. And then really the meat of this, and when Representative Davis talks about the illegal market that exists today, this is where it allows for the Gaming Commission to undertake the regulation at the bottom of page 6. And continuing on, page 7, we go through what type of regulation it will be addressed by the commission and rules. A very significant portion of these requirements you will find on page 17, a requirement that a patron shall be physically present in Wyoming when making a wager unless the patron is physically present in a permissible jurisdiction. Continuing on, page 8 continues the requirements. I want to draw your attention to page 9, line 11. This is where it allows the commission to promulgate rules to this section. Page 9, line 19. Very important here. What we're talking about is interactive online gaming, no brick and mortar. And this is a specific exclusion that does not allow brick and mortar in this. And on page 10, we go into the permits and fees and applications. Talks again about that an interactive gaming operator shall possess a permit issued by the commission. If you'll turn to page 12 at line 9, this is really the meat of enforcing and trying to convert that illegal market that exists today into a regulated consumer protected market. This allows the commission to go after the illegal operators. Without that, and I want to pause here for a minute, without these provisions and without adopting this statute, law enforcement in the state of Wyoming can go after illegal gaming only under the gambling statutes. And we have not seen any law enforcement activity on this subject. And as Representative Davis mentioned, it's been going on for years upon years. This will allow some teeth to be put into our statutes that would encourage not only the Gaming Commission under their law enforcement authority, but also local law enforcement in the AG's office to go after the illegal operators in the market. We have seen this in online sports wagering. There are operators that have been presented to the commission and to law enforcement that they're operating illegally. I'll let the commission, if they so choose, go into the nuances of that. But without this legislation, they're unable to pursue any of the illegal operators to have them cease and desist and move folks into the regulated consumer protected market. This continues to go into how they conduct themselves as a commission. And I draw your attention then to page 15, line 5. This is extremely important as well. These are the disqualifiers. An applicant, the commission shall deny any applicant under this section to anyone, including persons listed under subsection G of this section, upon finding any of the others. It goes into the disqualifiers. I will not read those in their entirety. I think you kind of get the gist of it as far as what we do in online sports wagering. It is identical. The rest of the next pages, all the way through page 20, are just present to the commission all the requirements in order to issue that license. On page 19 at the top on line 1, it talks about any of the denial and what the process for appealing any of those denials, revocations, or suspensions. And then page 20, another very important piece that honestly, members of the committee, the state of Wyoming had not addressed until the online sports wagering bill was passed in 2021. And that is a recognition that all of these activities should be under, have some component of responsible gaming. This bill, just like the online sports wagering bill, presents a $300,000 off the top transfer for responsible gaming. And that is then distributed to the Department of Health for distribution to the counties. On page 21, the first section there, this is also very important. This is the question about the age of participation. I will note that online sports wagering is currently at 18 years of age. It was the intent of the Joint Appropriations Interim Committee to raise that age to 21. When we looked at this bill and decided to bring it forward again, we brought it to 21. We find that that is sensible and what the intent of, at least of the 57th JAC was looking at. The rest of 21 talks about reciprocal agreements that can be entered into. And then 22, we have the penalties and compliance. And as Representative Davis presented the two amendments, one is to create that segregated interactive gaming account instead of it going straight to the Gaming Commission. That allows for those tips and the activity of the commission to manage this much in line with the online sports wagering. And Mr. Chairman, if you turn to page 25, section 3, we had this in the online sports wagering, pretty aggressive. That bill was adopted, signed into law on April 5th of 2021. We asked so that in that particular activity, you really wanted to get up and running, if at all possible, prior to the football season. So that bill 4 years ago had a rulemaking date of August 1, I believe. This bill, we recognize what was presented in the Spectrum Gaming Report, that the commission might need a little bit more time. We've put this at December 31, 2025. And then section 4 is the effective date immediately so that the commission can get to work on the rules and regulations. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I hope that was brief enough. It is a complex and long bill. I hope I did it justice. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Pickard. Committee, as you're catching up there, any questions for Representative Harshman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Pickard, just how many states currently offer this?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to rely on my colleague with Sports Betting Alliance, but as of last year, it was 6, and there's quite a few states that are engaged in the activity to adopt it this legislative season.
Okay, do you want to add? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's 8 in total.
8 total. And then, Mr. Chairman, just another question. For either one of you, really. You know, I guess the thing that I noticed changed with the sports betting is advertisements. You know, We passed that bill because similar argument, oh, it's already happening in your state. It's already out there. People are doing it online and we can't stop it. But there weren't advertisements. And I mean, you open any app on your phone, and I guess my question is, I think those aren't age restricted advertisements. I mean, I think kids are seeing them. I mean, we know we got the apps on our phone, you know, the big players. And I guess, is this gonna spring a whole new wave of advertising now? Kids are gonna see it on their phone because we can't put limits on that, I guess. Legislature doesn't want to do that, but, so how's that gonna work?
Mr. Pickard?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Harshman, there's no question that there was a lot of advertising that took place after the adoption of online sports wagering.
It's still going on.
And it's still going on.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. What I would present to the committee is what you're attempting to do by passing this legislation and doing it quite effectively, if you will, in the online sports wagering arena, is convert that illegal market. Somehow the consumer needs to know that there is a regulated, consumer-protected legal market that they're able to engage in. And if without advertising, there's not going to be that conversion at the rate that you would expect it to be. I will ask Sarah to go into a little bit more. I do believe we have another Sarah online from one of the companies that can talk specifically about their advertising protocols and all of that targeting is to age-appropriate recipients as best they can. But I would just leave as from a policy consideration, how else would you get out the message that there is a legal, regulated, consumer-protected product out there other than the ones that I believe that some of the members, and I think we shared this with most everyone, you know, there are a number of illegal online casinos that are advertising and are not being responsible of who they're targeting. BetUS, BetWhale, Black Lotus, Bovada, Chumba Casino, Coin Poker, there's tons of them out there. And what we're attempting to do, if this legislation passes, is to curb that illegal market and bring it into protected market.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pickard. Committee, any other questions? Seeing none, carry on. Introduce yourself.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Byron, members of the committee. My name is Sarah Filosa, and I am here today testifying on behalf of the Sports Betting Alliance, which is a trade association for online gaming operators that include BetMGM, DraftKings, Fanatic, and FanDuel. I'm here today to talk about Wyoming iGaming from two perspectives. The iGaming that is currently here in Wyoming, which is unregulated, unlicensed, and generating no taxable revenue or job creation benefits for the state, and the iGaming contemplated in HB 162, which would provide regulatory oversight and licensing for suitable entities, protect consumers from the ills of the illegal market, and generate between $15 and $22 million annually in new tax revenue for the state. But before I do that, what is iGaming? iGaming, or interactive gaming, describes games of chance. iGaming typically includes games that can be found in brick and mortar casinos, that includes roulette, craps, blackjack, poker, slots, and can be played on a mobile device, tablet, or computer. Now let's discuss the unregulated, unlicensed iGaming that already exists in Wyoming. For thousands of residents, it would come as a big surprise to learn that the games of blackjack, roulette, poker, and slots that are advertised on their radio and podcast channels or highlighted in their social media feeds are not authorized by the state. Recent studies have estimated that Wyoming consumers are wagering approximately $590 million annually on these sites, and this estimate is growing daily. On face value, this number is astonishing, almost unbelievable, but it only takes a quick search on Google or in your phone's app store to produce a host of very professional-looking platforms available for individuals of all ages to deposit money and play casino games. Sweepstakes casinos, such as Stake and Chumba, along with sportsbooks like Fliff, operate without regulatory approval or gaming licenses. While they claim to offer sweepstakes, their operations closely resemble traditional casino games. They utilize what's called a dual currency system, which allows them to bypass existing gaming laws. This model has faced criticism for potentially undermining gaming regulations and consumer protection efforts. These platforms mirror mainstream legalized gaming platforms and are active in states where they lack regulatory approval or gaming licenses. They engage in extensive marketing campaigns on social media, often featuring celebrity spokespeople like Drake for Stake and Ryan Seacrest for Chumba Casino. These campaigns are designed to directly target teenagers and young people, raising concerns about their influence of this vulnerable demographic. The U.S. sweepstakes gaming market is expected to exceed $11.4 billion in player purchases and $4 billion in net revenue in 2025. These operators have no oversight, no age verification mechanism, or any consumer protection tools to moderate play. Now I would like to focus the remainder of my testimony on the bill before you, HB 162. This legislation aims to allow adults to engage in iGaming with licensed and regulated operators, similar to mobile sports betting. Members of the Sports Betting Alliance, along with other professional iGaming operators, are ready to offer a safe online gaming experience using cutting-edge technology for Wyoming consumers aged 21 and over. The passage of this legislation presents a significant step forward for Wyoming. By transitioning from an unregulated, untaxed iGaming environment to a structured and lawful one, the state can harness substantial economic benefits while safeguarding its residents. The proposed legislation not only promises to generate millions in new tax revenue, but also ensures consumer protection and responsible gaming practices. As we stand on the brink of this opportunity, I urge the committee to consider the long-term advantages of a regulated iGaming market. Thank you for your attention, and with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you for that. Committee, any questions? Representative Connolly.
Yeah, since I'm not a iPhone, Facebook platform kind of girl, how do you regulate the age thing on these platforms?
Chairman Byron, Representative Connolly, that's a great question. So that is a top priority for all of the members of the Sports Betting Alliance, but any legal iGaming operator. So what they have is what's called KYC, which is Know Your Customer. So when you're creating a profile online to engage in either iGaming or sports betting, you'll be required to go through a series of steps, which will, just as you were opening, similar to a bank account, that will identify who you are, whether it's from your driver's license, your social security numbers, and then you'll be prompted to ask a series of questions. Then that goes to a third-party authenticator, which then will fully authenticate that you are who you say you are and you are of the right age to engage in either iGaming or sports betting in the state.
Thank you, Representative Connolly, for that question. Thank you. Committee, Representative Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question for either or both of you. I think I noticed it on page 7, and it might be other places, that on page 7, line 19, so a requirement that a patron shall be physically present in Wyoming when making a wager, and then we get to that, unless they're physically present in a permissible jurisdiction. And I don't know what permissible jurisdiction means. If you could help add some clarity to that.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Campbell, overall, the state of Wyoming would be the permissible jurisdiction. Within this bill and within the rules and regulations of the commission, they will require that the Wind River Indian Reservation be geo-fenced out of it. So that is one aspect of that. The other one is when you look on later in the bill, when you talk about the reciprocal agreements, those reciprocal agreements primarily would be with other states, and therefore it is a pooling of resources, much like you see in the way parimutuel is, that you could be interacting in one of those reciprocal states. They would have to have the same type of structure that we have, and the Gaming Commission would work through those reciprocal agreements. They do that currently.
Thank you, Mr. Pickard. Thank you for that question. Committee, it is 9:20. we do have a few online, and I want to get to the rest of the room. Please don't go far. Anyone else here today should have gone to agency earlier, but not having any to speak in favor of House Bill 162, please come fill up the chairs. Appreciate your testimony. Just remember to be aware of our time, and we are pinched on the reality of what's going on a few floors above us and down a little bit. So appreciate everyone coming to this special meeting. Let's start with my right, your left. Go ahead and introduce yourself. And
good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Jeremiah Riemann here on behalf of the Wyoming County Commissioners Association. We are in support of this. You've heard lots of talk about regulation of the industry. I think that's an important component. I think I'm going to just focus on one issue that is a part of this bill, and that's in that page 20, lines 1 through 12. You see a provision in there that appropriates monies for problematic gaming, and in particular through the counties to offer that. That's something that we've been doing for a couple of years in the sports betting legislation that was passed previously. It had a similar allocation to counties. Most counties have taken up that money to offer problem gaming services within their communities, but in some places it's a rather small amount, and they're having a difficult time trying to figure out how best to utilize that funding in a productive way. So I only bring it up to say, hey, we support that inclusion, but one thing that we'd like to do with you during the interim is to really look at this problematic gaming appropriation, and it exists beyond just the funds that are appropriated to the counties. We have, the Gaming Commission has its own fund. The Wyoming Lottery has a similar fund. If you expand it out, counties get funds for substance abuse, mental health. And I think we can probably do a better job for you if we don't find a better structure for all of that. So I'm not saying to change anything here. I'm just putting it on your radar as part of this. We're supportive of things more broadly, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
thank you, Mr. Riemann. Committee, any questions for him? Seeing none, thank you. Continue on.
Good morning, Chairman Byron and members of the committee. My name is Kristen Lee, and I represent Development Economic Association. And we're an association that has members of all the iGaming Interactive members. Here today online is Mr. John Pappas, who's the State Advocacy Director, and he'll present our position in support of HB 162. And we appreciate you allowing him to testify online.
Thank you, Ms. Lee.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Ashley Harpstreet, Wyoming Association of Municipalities. We would like to recognize the proposed legislation promotes responsible gaming as it underscores the importance of promoting safe and ethical practices within the gaming industry. Additionally, the explicit prohibition on underage interaction serves as a critical safeguard. I say this as a mom of young minors, ensuring that minors are protected from potential harm associated with gambling activities. These measures reflect a commitment to fostering a responsible gaming environment that prioritizes the well-being of individuals and communities alike. I would also offer support to Mr. Ryman's comments and anything the municipalities could do to help foster that environment. We're readily on board and here at your disposal. Additionally, in light of the shifting revenue landscape, we would like to highlight the significant potential that gaming offers as a versatile opportunity for a diversified revenue stream for municipalities. So I'm obviously in favor for the amendment. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, through to Mr. Harshman. I know that we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, but we're up here ready to help as needed and would appreciate some revenue streams.
Thank you, Ms. Harpstreet. Any questions, committee? Okay, anyone else in the room that would like to testify in favor of this? We are gonna try to Tanner hop to online, and we do have Mr. Pappas and I didn't catch Sarah's last name, but another that, if you could let them in. If you're hearing us, go ahead and accept invitation, come into the Zoom room, unmute yourself, introduce yourself and who you're representing, and We're gonna be doing those in favor of House Bill 162 right now. Mr. Pappas, can you hear us?
I can. Can you guys hear me?
We got you. Please go ahead and introduce yourself and proceed.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and distinguished members of the committee. My name is John Pappas. I serve as the State Advocacy Director for the I-Development and Economic Association. We are the leading trade association of companies in the online gaming industry. We represent not only the forward-facing, consumer-facing operators, but all of the suppliers and vendors that make the entire online gaming ecosystem. You heard from some witnesses already, and I don't want to be repetitive. So being respectful of your time, I'm going to keep my remarks concise today. We obviously thank Representative Davis for his bill, and we support it, and we hope that the committee will support this important policy and move it forward within the legislature. One of the things that was already brought up, and I think needs to be reiterated, is the fact that you can go online today in Wyoming and play a variety of online casino games, poker, and other forms of online gambling that are not licensed and regulated in the state. In fact, just simply type, "Can I play online poker in Wyoming?" and you'll get a number of results that say you can. In fact, one of them I read just this morning that says, residents can play poker, casino games, and slot machines at offshore online betting sites in Wyoming. These online casinos are located outside of the country, which means these online casinos can accept Wyoming players and pay out big cash jackpots. This is an activity that is going on today in an unlicensed environment. What you guys are considering today would corral that unregulated industry and turn it into one that is licensed, regulated, taxed, and accountable. That is most important. This shift will not only protect your consumers with any of the risks associated with these offshore sites, it will also promote a culture of safe and responsible gaming. And that is another important point. What does that mean, responsible gaming? This isn't just code words that the industry uses to talk about, yeah, we want to be responsible. This is a proactive approach that every online operator takes to ensure that the people on their platform are playing in a way that is safe and responsible. These are driven through data and collection of information of gambling behaviors to ensure that players aren't exceeding their financial means or operating in a way that would suggest that they are chasing losses or problem gambling. In many cases, some of these operators analyze over 70 behavioral markers. And they assess the risk of people playing, and they determine based on their patterns whether they are exhibiting signs of problem gambling, and they take proactive approaches to help those players. This isn't a sit back and wait industry. This is a proactive industry that is serving to address these issues. And I think it was very important that money is being allocated for the municipalities and the localities to beef up their assistance and education of problem gambling to make sure that those that do have problems have the treatment, have the resources and the treatment that they need to get better. Organizations like ours play a pivotal role in this effort as well. We have a responsible gaming pillars that outline a comprehensive framework for the operators so that they can make sure that responsible gaming is at the forefront of all of their operations. And we're not the only ones. The American Gaming Association and others are promoting this on a daily basis with their membership. I'm going to conclude by just saying that this is an extension of an existing regulatory framework you already have. So we're not reinventing the wheel here. What the Wyoming Gaming Commission has successfully done with online sports betting offers a blueprint for what can be done for the safe and responsible expansion into iGaming. Everything from digital identification, geolocation, integrity of the games, all of that can be done. All of that is already being done with online sports betting and only be strengthened under this new proposal. So with all of that said, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, we hope that you will support this bill, and I'm pleased to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Pappas. Committee Representative Hirschman.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Pappas, just, and I could ask probably any of the supporters in the room this as well, but how does this bill fence out the offshore folks? I mean, how's it gonna stop that as well?
So there is no 100% solution to stopping illegal gambling. Well, we know that already today. But it is it provides a regulated option for consumers. As a consumer, as a 21 and older consumer in the state of Wyoming, I'd much prefer to play on a well-known regulated site than which is operating offshore and unregulated. Beyond that, it gives the Gaming Commission and your law enforcement a law to point to say, hey, we have a law in the books that says online gambling is legal only and if you are licensed and regulated in the state. And if you are not, you are operating illegally. Right now, these operators exploit the lack of clarity in the law to say, oh, we're just going to operate here without a license because, we're offshore. What we've seen in other jurisdictions like Michigan is a great example. Their state attorney general, along with their state gaming commission, have issued C&Ds, cease and desist letters to these offshore operators. And those operators have ceased operating in those states because they know that there is a clear, defined legal market that they are violating.
Appreciate that question, Co-Chair Hirschman. Thank you, Mr. Pappas. Any other questions of testifier? Nothing? Okay, folks, we are at 9:32. We're just over a half hour, and folks that are in favor of this bill, we do have one more online. If we could go ahead and let her in, and then we did take some testimony on Thursday. For those that are not in favor of this bill, we will allow others to speak to that, and then I would like time to work this bill. So keep that in mind, 9:32. We have about a half hour. If it's been said, try to ditto it, but go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us who you're representing. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Byron and members of the committee. My name is Sarah Bewley, and I'm a Government Affairs Manager at DraftKings, appearing before you today to earn your support of HB 162. I am testifying on behalf of DraftKings, one of the 4 member companies that comprise the SBA, the Sports Betting Alliance. I'll quickly discuss our background, the impact of this bill, highlight the pervasiveness of the existing illegal market and its lack of consumer protections, and finally, hit on the opportunity for Wyoming to capture a substantial tax revenue. DraftKings is a digital sports entertainment and gaming company created to be the ultimate host and fuel the competitive spirits of sports fans with products that range across daily fantasy, regulated gaming, and digital media. DraftKings' mission is to make life more exciting by responsibly creating the world's favorite real money games and betting experiences. Our sportsbook is live with mobile and/or retail sports betting operations pursuant to regulations in 28 states and Washington, D.C. In Wyoming, we are one of the 5 existing licensed operators offering Wyoming residents and tourists online sports betting since the market launched in the fall of 2021. Since that time, Wyoming players have come to know us for our fun, customer-centric experience and to trust us for our consumer protection safeguards of age verification, geofencing, and responsible gaming tools. We value the strong partnerships we have built with the Wyoming Gaming Commission and other key stakeholders during the past 4 years, and very much look forward to replicating that success story in the context of iGaming in years to come. In that spirit, we support amendments to the commission that the commission proposes to facilitate its ability to vet and license operators and appreciate its continued thoughtful regulatory approach. Let's now dive into HB 162, iGaming, and the opportunity at hand that brings us here today. Representative Davis's bill is all about bringing the same fun gaming experience and same consumer protections Wyomings are already familiar with in our online sportsbook for a different product, iGaming. As you've heard here today, iGaming allows adults to have fun playing the same casino-style games they know and love, blackjack, poker, and the like, accessible in an online format. We operate iGaming pursuant to regulations in 5 states under the DraftKings brand and pursuant to regulations in 3 states under the Golden Nugget online gaming brand. While iGaming may sound novel to some folks in this room today, it is anything but. The first states authorized iGaming in 2012 and have over a decade's wealth of policy and implementation experience as the market has grown more mature. The reality is, iGaming is already rampantly occurring within the Cowboy State. The problem is, the only option Wyoming residents and tourists alike have today is to play on illegal sites that are void of any requirements for consumer protections, age verifications, geofencing, anti-money laundering guards, self-exclusions, or otherwise, and continue to siphon billions of dollars away from local economies, all while paying zero taxes into the state for the privilege of operating within its borders. These responsible gaming measures are largely absent from the illegal and unregulated iGaming websites that operate in Wyoming today. It's estimated that Wyoming residents are wagering nearly $590 million per year on illegal and unregulated iGaming sites. Age verification measures and player protections on most of these sites are either wholly absent or grossly inadequate. Yet consumers flock to them because it's their only available option, often unaware that they are not authorized by the state. In dramatic contrast to these operators, where all it takes is a credit card or a digital wallet and an internet connection to create an account and play, licensed iGaming operators are committed to creating trusted, safe destinations for players. At DraftKings, responsible gaming is a core priority. We focus on educating and empowering players to make informed gaming decisions through several key programs. It starts with our people. We have a team of over 60 full-time staff dedicated to providing the best responsible gaming services possible. We take a multi-pronged approach to responsible gaming. First, we provide a suite of tools on the platform that consistently educate and empower all players to play responsibly. Second, we engage with and support players who exhibit risky behaviors and may need additional support or intervention. And finally, we collaborate with external stakeholders to maximize resources and the efficacy of industry practices. Beyond our team, we're innovating new player tools to create a transparency of play. This year, DraftKings introduced My Stat Sheet, an innovative gameplay tool that gives players the abilities to assess, track, and review their personal play activity in real time, such as the amount of money they have spent and their net wins and losses. This information can be viewed for a month, the last year, or the lifetime of an account, and is presented in an easy-to-understand charts and graphs. My Stat Sheet is intended to be a transparent tool to help players make informed, data-driven decisions on their own personal play. By authorizing a legal iGaming market, Wyoming can educate the public to both recognize and shift their play to legal sites, while simultaneously taking action to shut down illegal operators. Done together, according to the Commission's gaming study dated last November, the state's iGaming legal market is forecasted to generate upwards of $112.5 million in new tax revenue by year 5 to fund critical state programs such as counties, municipalities, the Commission, and problem gaming support. In closing, DraftKings views responsible gaming efforts as part of a shared commitment within a community of important stakeholders, including lawmakers, regulators, public health organizations, and industry associations. We are in regular dialogue with our regulators, including Executive Director Laramendi and the Wyoming Gaming Commission, who oversee operations of online sports betting. We believe that any operator serving Wyoming's gaming public should prioritize responsible gaming, and we support the legalization of iGaming to achieve this goal. Thank you for your time today. I stand for any questions.
Thank you for that testimony. Committee, we are at 9:40. Do you have any questions of that presenter? Representative Jarvis, please note that I would like to get to opposition and work this bill. So if it's been said or the question, I do not want to cut a good colleague off, but we need to continue this in respect to time. So Representative Jarvis?
Thank you, Chairman. I guess my question is, when you say that you support people in risky behavior, what does that look like?
We have an entire team devoted to responsible gaming, and they take a data-driven approach to identifying risky gaming behavior. For example, if they see behavior that is an anomaly for that player to exhibit, such as making an odd amount of deposits and withdrawals in a short amount of time span, that would look like flagging that behavior and sending escalating intervention steps to interact with that player and check in and make sure everything is okay. It could be as simple as a simple banner that says, reality check, is everything okay? We see multiple deposits going on in a short amount of time. It could be a total screen takeover if it's not addressed or if they continue. And it also could escalate to an actual DraftKings staff member reaching out and saying, we need to check in on you person to person until we allow the account to continue.
Thank you. Appreciate that question. Has been some discussion about that, and it's good to bring that to the forefront of the committee. Any other questions, committee? Representative Storr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just reviewing the tax rate that's proposed for this bill. At 16%, it appears to be on the low end of proposed model legislation that the industry has put forward. It's less than the average of the states that currently allow online casinos. And other states have proposed even up to 55% tax rate. So I'm just curious how we arrived at 16% for the state of Wyoming. Thank you.
Appreciate that. And that question may be for the bringer of the bill. I don't want to put Ms. Mealy on the hot sheet, but let's, yep. Yeah, Mr. Davis, please, Representative Davis, please answer that briefly, and then we are going to go to those again. So if you are here to speak, thank you, Ms. Mealy, for your testimony. If you're here to speak against that bill, this bill, please come on up. Join us up front. Representative Davis, briefly, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Storrs. 16% was what we had considered the middle of the line between 10 and 22% makes it equitable in the state of Wyoming is what the information I had was under the impression of. And yes, there is larger ones in different areas, but to operate in the state of Wyoming, we chose the middle ground at 16% in order to address this in this bill.
Thank you, Representative Davis. Thank you, Representative Storr, for the question. Okay, those against, and please note on Thursday, we did spend about 20 minutes hearing testimony for those that had traveled against this bill. If you're in the room and you intend to speak against House Bill 162, please go ahead and fill up these chairs. If not, those online, please get ready. We're going to start here in the room. Go ahead and introduce yourselves and welcome to House TRW.
Mr. Chairman, committee, Nathan Winters, President of the Wyoming Family Alliance, and it's good to see you all. I don't often come before this committee, but this bill provides enough concern that it will damage families and young men that I feel I need to be here. Bills like these are being presented all across the nation, and they present quite a bit of concern, so much so that a widely differing group of people, such as family policy councils like ours, Men's Health, Newsweek, 60 Minutes, Democrats, Republicans, and many else, all have united to try to raise concerns about legislation just like this. These apps are enormous business. Estimates are that online sports betting companies took in about $15 billion in 2024, and that 37.6 million people bet online in the United States. Recently, a researcher was able to access some public information laws on Flutter, the owner of FanDuel, that Flutter had gathered on one of its customers, and the data was used to tailor offers and push notifications to keep the customer in action. And the report was that while they were able to use 93 different data points they had gathered on this individual, it included things like when the customer would bet, how much they would bet, which market inducements would work best on that individual. And the researcher concluded it's not a fair wager. They have so much information on each individual. And then about 3 in 4 bettors are men, specifically young men. A Siena College poll demonstrated that. Nearly half of them feel that they're betting more than they should. And the data is clear and compelling, and it isn't good. The rise of sports betting is problematic. And I'll close with this. Regarding the promise of being able to regulate illegal online gambling, it's offset by just 3 points I want to raise that I've been thinking of as I've been sitting here. The concern that opening up the state so that massively funded gambling companies have exclusive access to our youth, that is somehow protective, I think it's a false argument. The incidences of gambling will surge overall. That's the biggest danger. But also, I just want to point out that it isn't necessary to legalize something to go after the illegal actor. You don't have to legalize gambling in this way so that you can actually prosecute those who are predatory. The far better design would be to put together a law that goes after the illegal actors. And then thirdly, in spite of all the protesting that illegal gaming platforms are out there with slick advertising, the 2 largest actors represented by this bill are overwhelming in their presence. I don't gamble, but I do know what those 2 actors are. I know their names. So, Mr. Chairman, committee, I urge you to resist this legislation, or at a minimum, there needs to be something like blackout times overnight and spending caps and a lot of other things that would bring it into line with something that is more like gambling others would bring. But overall, I am opposed to this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Winters. Appreciate that comments. Committee, any other questions for Mr. Winters? Not seeing any. We're gonna hop to, thank you. We're gonna hop to Clinton Glick, if you could let Clinton Glick in. And Ms. Johnson, we did hear from you on Thursday, but if you would like to testify, I'll give you a moment. Kind of caught Mr. Glick off guard, it looks like, but Mr. Glick, please go ahead and reintroduce yourself if it's been said. And I do appreciate when you were down here on Thursday. You can ditto it. You have the floor.
Good morning, Chairman Byron and Honorable Travel Committee. My name is Clinton Glick. I'm a councilman for the Eastern Shoshone Tribe of the Wind River Reservation. We stand in opposition of House Bill 162, Interactive Gaming. We urge you to keep gaming dollars local to Wyoming. The Shoshone Rose Casino employs over 120 residents of Fremont County, and close to 60% of the employees are tribal members, with the remainder being non-tribal members from the local towns of Lander, Riverton, Hudson, Pavilion, and Wind River Reservation. And I think we employ a few from Thermopolis. Employees and vendors from the Shoshone Rose Casino contribute over 15 million annually into the economies of Fremont County and the surrounding counties, the state of Wyoming, and this is all from payroll payments to the vendors, payroll and payments to the vendors of the casino. Interactive gaming does not help any of the local economies with employment and will send dollars to out-of-state entities. That's the portion that's really hard to swallow, is sending money out of the state. I would rather have money stay within our boundaries of the state of Wyoming. Since 2013, HHR machines and pari-mutuel racetracks have grown out of control, and our casino has lost almost 50% of its fan base. That's a different type of gambling, but I just want you to be aware of that. With that, I urge a no vote for House Bill 162, Interactive Gaming. And I stand for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glick, and thank you for being here on Thursday. Committee, any questions of Mr. Glick? Representative Connolly.
Thank you. Mr. Glick, I just have a question. Could you do the same thing as this bill would do on the reservation, where they're talking about geo-fencing the reservation out? If you wanted to, could you set up something like this similarly on the reservation that would help?
Mr. Glick, a simple yes or no may work on this one.
It's kind of hard to explain, but yes, we could.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Glick. Appreciate your testimony. Ms. Johnson, we did hear from you Thursday. We would like to close public testimony and figure out what we're gonna do with this, so please let Ms. Johnson in. Ms. Johnson, go ahead and take yourself off of mute and introduce yourself. We have about 10 minutes till we're due upstairs.
Hi, my name is Claire Johnson. I'm the in-house attorney for the Northern Arapaho Tribe. And I just want to reiterate the Northern Arapaho Tribe's strong opposition to this bill, that it will hurt the tribe significantly and cause huge financial repercussions, and that we encourage the committee to please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Thank you for being with us last Thursday. Anyone else in the room in opposition to House Bill 162, please hop up and testify. That clears our deck, Tanner, for online. Okay, great. Representative Worf, question.
Mr. Chairman, were you going to call the Director of the Gaming Commission to testify? If not, I would like to ask some questions of him.
Please, yep. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess the question I have, Director, you're over gambling in the state. Is this or is this not an expansion of gaming in the state? And I guess I'll ask you to answer that question first.
Director. Thank you for the question. Chairman Byron, Representative Worf, this would be an expansion of gaming. This would, ultimately, this would legalize Class 3 gaming across the state.
Thank you. And that's what I thought. One of the questions I have, it's been proposed that we could geofence out the reservation. And I guess the question I have is if we can geofence them out, why can't we geofence the entire state and prohibit all of this illegal activity from happening?
Thank you, Representative Worf. Director?
Thank you again. Chairman Byron, so we currently have geofencing capabilities with the online sports wagering. In order for that to work, the vendors and operators have to subscribe to those services. A lot of the problem with the offshore online illegal casinos is they're outside of our reach. These happen overseas all the time. Cease and desist letters get sent, but we really have no way to force them to join into a sub vendor that would block that out. And if I may, one other thing with that, a lot of times, you know, even the Department of Justice and stuff will get involved in those and we'll shut those down and they just change names and then just pop up under a different name.
And if I may,
Representative
Mr.
Worf,
Chairman,
please.
I know we're in a time constraint, but I guess how would we differentiate between those that are licensed or permitted versus those who are not with the operators and vendors? Because it sounds like to me, the minute we say they're not permitted, they just go form something else. It seems like to me that we're chasing a rabbit down a hole is what it feels like to me.
Thank you, Representative Worf, for rabbit down a path, I think it's been referred to. Director?
Chairman Byron, Representative Worf. So we do have a list of all of our licensed vendors and operators. Those are the ones that are always in good standing. Ones that would not be licensed, those would be the ones that we would go after under this legislation as far as operating unlicensed gaming.
Representative Worf?
And I guess that brings it back to my point. If we can go after the unlicensed ones, why can't we do that right now? Because we have some that are permitted. And the vast majority of these are not permitted. So I guess the concern I have is I see that we're being asked to permit something that expands it. And if we can't regulate it, but also we can if we expand it, it makes no sense to me, because if that's the case, how do we stop other illegal activities from coming before us and saying, tax us? We know it's illegal for prostitution and certain drugs. Tax us and make us legal. And I guess I think we're letting the camel nose in the tent, maybe even all the way up to his hump with this. So I guess that's the question I have is, why can't we stop them right now? Why do they have to be permitted in order to stop them?
Director?
Thank you, Chairman Byron, Representative Worf. So currently, right now, if they're operating illegally, our office does investigate those under Title VI. It would be professional gambling. And so it would just be a felony professional gambling case. The way this bill is drafted, looking at page 22, it also assigns some pretty hefty civil penalties for operating unlicensed, which would be, $50,000 for a first offense, $100,000 for a second or subsequent. Currently, right now, under Title VI, the felony professional gambling is a $3,000 criminal fine. But again, that's a tough one to try to get, an offshore operator convicted of a felony professional gambling extradition back for something like that is next to impossible.
Thank you, Director.
Yeah, thank you for your time. I know we're time constrained, so I'm gonna hold my questions now. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Representative Jarvis? Nope. Okay, great. Any other questions, committee of the director? Thank you for being here. Appreciate all the help you've guided us through gaming. With that, I'm gonna go ahead and close public comment. It is 9:56, committee. I do not mind being late. I would like the opportunity to work this bill or continue it. So what is your pleasure?
No.
Representative Connolly has moved the bill. Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Hearing no second, House Bill 162 will not, is postponed indefinitely. Thank you, committee, on House Bill 162. Lot of good questions. I think there's a very large discussion to be had here, and I'd be happy to continue it. Committee, it is 9:57. We are going to be adjourned in a moment, Representative Provenza. We thank you for the extra meeting. I want those in the room to know that the intent is to hear 299 on Tuesday. I will notice that appropriately, but we will hop into just another gaming bill. We're gonna do 136 to start Tuesday's meeting. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you all for joining us this morning.